flooded, but wonder the impact it will have as it headlined, BIA creates disarmament commission amidst raging Anglophone crisis. Whereas, The Voice analyzed the gruesome task ahead of the DDR and posed the question, can government disarm Amba fighters? Not intending to blow things out of proportion, the Guardian Post on its part announced, BIA creates disarmament committee amidst raging gun battles. According to the Horizon, separatists rather criticized the creation of the DDR, which they described as putting cart before horse, a move they say failed to touch on why Anglophone youths decided to carry arms in the first place. The Post, in the same vein, said in an editorial that creating the DDR is like putting cart before horse. Cameroon Tribune, in another publication, drifted from the negative views as it published that the population sees the creation of the National Disarmament, Demobilization and Reintegration Commission as a great opportunity to peacefully solve the security crisis. The Guardian Post, however, reported that Ambazonian fighters snubbed BIA's disarmament move as they engaged military in fierce gun battles in spite of the creation of the DDR in a later edition. After the hot potatoes with President Biya's decree creating the DDR, the papers all announced Fa Yengo Francis as the coordinator of the commission and agreed that he is the right man for the job, with captions such as Fa Yengo, DDR coordinator, the man. The words in his favor, however, didn't override worries as the Guardian Post in page 11 of its Tuesday, November 7 edition questioned, will Fa Yengo make or mar? More hot potatoes flooded the papers again this week, with CAF's decision stripping Cameroon of her hosting rights to the 2019 AFCON. The Post, with sources in a dilemma, headlined, Cameroonians mourn, celebrate AFCON hosting rights withdrawal. While The Voice voiced Biya's embarrassment and termed CAF's bombshell as the first disaster of Biya's new 7-year mandate of greater opportunities. The paper didn't end there as it published another article saying, CAF delivers man-sized slap on Cameroon, a subject the Guardian Post treated as a vox pop on the center spread on one of its editions, where more persons were for CAF's decision than against, making statements like, it serves us right, obvious from the onset, and complete infrastructures resolve Anglophone crisis. The same paper in another publication asked war between government and CAF is to blame, portraying the divergent views of both parties, while asking if hosting the 2021 AFCON is an option, saying Ahmad is dancing for before for back. Meanwhile, breaking news purported 2023 is the best option for Cameroon as concerns the AFCON. The lone bilingual daily Cameroon Tribune also wrote on how government is disappointed with CAF's decision, especially after all the investments made. But the National Assembly in the same paper, however, called for calm and patriotism. Meanwhile, the Horizon insisted that it's a bitter pill to swallow as Ahmad stabbed Biya in the back. Other topics such as the Nachtigal hydroelectricity project, which will put smiles on the faces of many Cameroonians, government's campaign to fight against clandestine transport in the country, and of course, the list of candidates vying for the Fecafoot top job, also came under focus this week.
Okay, we have on the set this midday Professor Christopher. Let me begin by asking you this question. Is this committee an unusual committee, or it falls in line with situations like this, that committees of this nature come into existence? Do they exist?
You mean the DDR?
Yes, DDR, disarmament, demobilization and rehabilitation, or they call it reintegration. I don't know which one.
Rehabilitation.
Okay.
In reality, we have to first of all look at the context in which this committee was created. We have two types of conflict in our country. We have the Boko Haram terrorist conflict going up in the northern part of the country, and we have the identity issue of the Anglophone problem going on in the northwest southwest region.
How would you qualify the problem in the northwest?
So if we look at, first of all, let me say something about the northern region.
Okay.
You know, the northern region is the attack was a border attack and from terrorists who came in and attacked the country. And we saw there was some popular uprising, people supporting the military, really supporting the military against terrorism, and you know, trying to see, and the government used hard and soft power in order to push the Boko Haram behind and try to recuperate the situation and working on the ground with these people. There, this committee is going to work, I think it's going to work successfully, because they are going to disarm those people who were recruited by the Boko Haram insurgents in this aspect. But when you move down now to the northwest, southwest Anglophone problem, I think this committee is going to have a lot of problems. One, with conflict, when we're in a conflict situation, there is a procedure to be followed. You know, it is the government might have been doing that, thinking it's going to bring a solution. It is not a bad thing to create such a commission. But when do you create the committee? That is what matters. In such a conflict like what is going on now in the northwest and southwest region, there's a procedure. One, what happened? Two, why did it happen? Then we come to what is known as the venting verge. The venting verge means we have thrown light on the causes and all the issues that have been going on during this conflict. And then now we move to the third step, which is what can we do? And what can we do now? People have to discuss what can be done. Then you move to plan of action. I think that is where, after building trust, that is when we move to peacemaking, trust building, and then we create this commission now for the commission to be able to work with the people who carried up arms. We should know that these guys did not just decide to carry up arms. Certain things pushed them to carry up arms. And to remove them from this arms deal, you have to give them an alternative. Secondly, you have to work on them psychologically. And thirdly, you have to convince them to trust you that what has happened, they can lay down their arms. So the committee is not a bad committee, yes, but the time that it has been created, I think it is not really timely.
Okay, I'll come back to you, but when you follow him, there's this preoccupation. He's talking about the timeliness of it, but we see that damage has been caused. And the President of the Republic on November 6th did promise that lay down your arms, your place is in the Republic. So why should he be talking about timeliness when the man in whose hands the trust or confidence of the country has been given says this is the way forward?
Oh, no matter the endeavor, the time factor is primordial. It is very important. Let us simplify. We were speaking from the point of view of an expert. Let us say you have a patient, okay? Do you just go straight to treatment without diagnosing? You might be treating, you will be doing what they call trial and error or swimming in the dark, because you don't know exactly what you are treating. That is the first point. The second point with relation to time is, you remember what we say, a stitch in time serves 9. If you begin to stitch when the cloth is completely torn, the stitch in time may not serve 9 again.
Okay.
Because
except you have something to add.
Because a lot would have happened. You know, Joe, if you go historically, or try to, let's not go historically, just try to monitor how this event developed. People didn't just get up and they took arms. Time played. Things started,
and that's why yes,
it is important to factor in time in any approach, in any solution.
Isn't it time to look back and say we made a mistake?
Yes, but once you have passed the stage where you had to do something, and you begin to do it now, the risk is that it may be counterproductive.
Now, okay, they are talking about time, but the government has taken an initiative calling on those who have taken up arms to lay down their arms. The committee's name to demobilize and rehabilitate. They are not just saying throw the arms and disappear.
No, yes, Joe, I think it's an initiative in futility. It has failed even before it will begin its work, because there is no security for these guys. There is no guarantee for security for these guys. I mean, you say you are integrating them back into the military. What's the guarantee that their life will be spared? Because we know how some of these institutions have functioned elsewhere. There's always a third party when it comes. There's always dialogue, peace dialogue, with the presence of a third party, and the third party, or because of that dialogue, now the security of these guys are guaranteed. They know that their life somehow is secure, so that they understand that this is more or less a hoax, and I fear many of them will not even show up.
Now, is the problem with the creation, or the problem is with the procedure? And now, as an expert, even when you create a problem, rather create a committee like this, the committee has been given a roadmap. Does your preoccupation, or is that what worries you? Is it not in the roadmap of that committee? It should be taken care of, like what he just said, guarantees.
I read the roadmap of the committee, which means the content, the jurisdiction of this or the other. And in reality, they don't have the jurisdiction for peacemaking. They are there to demobilize, disarm, demobilize, and rehabilitate the people into the community and into whatever, and many other things. You know, we cannot really speak clearly here because they have to go. But this is the point what I'm saying. There are so many ways of it. There's no ultimate way to solve a conflict. There's no ultimate way for education, but we have standard ways. We have a standard way for education: primary school, secondary school, high school. This. It's the same with this particular situation. We don't have an ultimate way to solve a problem, but there's a standard way, and that is where we move to peaceful, pacific way of doing it, dialogue, what we call peacemaking. And in the peacemaking now, we create trust, as I said earlier, which means there are so many discussions that are supposed to go up. Then the people come now to a situation where they say, okay, we have come to this level. What do we do, and how do we do it? You understand? And that is when
I read some specialists who were saying that even when you go through the method which the government has initiated, you could still come out at the same conclusion.
Starting from disarmament, the most difficult thing now is if you start from there, come here. Where are you going to see them? Do you think they just? The question is, why did they pick up arms? How did they pick up arms? These questions must be answered. You know, and if these questions are not answered, it becomes difficult. And first of all, where they are now, there are so many things that have entangled themselves into it. And you know that there are not only the restorationists who are carrying up arms, but you have bandits who have come into it. Are you sure the bandits are going to drop their arms? And these people are using it now. Some of them are using it now on what we call war economy. They're making a lot of money from it. If they are dropping their arms now, which alternative are you giving them? So all these questions should be answered. But I think the most important thing we have to do now is to go to the causes, the root causes. What happened? Now, why did it happen?
When you look at what the government did in terms of what the president has said, we recognize that mistakes have been made along the line. We are calling on you that your place is in the Republic. We want you to disarm and be reintegrated. Don't you see a consistency in that, or you need, from the theoretical perspective, to follow the steps which you have
This is what I would say. It is. I said earlier that the creation of the committee is not the bad thing. That's what I said. And as I said again, there's no ultimate way for conflict resolution or management. But the issue now is, when there is a conflict, you have more than one party. You have many parties in this particular conflict. And so each party will like to be a participant on how to come out from this particular issue. It is not a monologue. It should be a dialogue where the parties should sit and discuss equally and then they come up with terms. I hope you understand what I'm saying. There are so many things that I don't want to go into. I don't like to say, because we always talk of people in detention, killings, kidnappings, and all these gruesome images that we see every day. Yeah. How do you address those issues? To build trust in the minds of these people that people are serious in what you are doing. So the issue now is trust building. Okay. First of all, ceasefire. After ceasefire, you go into discussions, build trust in the society. After build trust, then the committee will be empowered. That is when you see how this DDR will be empowered, because everybody now will support it. In this particular aspect, you have one party in the conflict supporting the commission. The other parties, we have heard what they have said, that it is a hoax.
They don't have, I don't know, I haven't heard anything, but how can that committee inspire confidence from the other party, given that government has taken the initiative?
It can inspire confidence by, first of all, working on the premise that trust has been established when you trust somebody, because you don't know what will happen if you come to disarm. There are three key stages here. You disarm, which means you lay down the arms, and it doesn't end there. You demobilize, which means there are a number of groups, organized and non-organized. Then you rehabilitate or you reintegrate. There are a series of principles that are linked. If I lay down my arms and I'm not sure of what is going to happen, because whether we like it or not, there are people now, their arms are now a source of livelihood for them. And that is where rehabilitation comes in, where you tell somebody that, okay, because it's not everybody that will get into that, lays down the arms, that gets into the military. That is that can get into the military. It's a misconception. You can be reintegrated into the society in different ways.
Exactly.
You can go back to the activity, because there are some of these people who have been involved in income-generating activities. And those activities, because of the prevailing situation, have been completely dislocated. So you give them the opportunity to go back to what they were doing. Secondly, for those who have the aptitude, because it's not everybody who can get into the military, that is when you can be talking about, that's an alternative. There are those who are unemployed, who now see this as an opportunity, as a job. So you must be able to look for an alternative for those people. That is within the context of rehabilitation or reintegration.
Okay. Now, they've talked so much about time, and this committee was not given, say, they are supposed to work. Should the committees give the combatants time and say, okay, from this to this time, we will need you to come, and the committee have coordinations at the level of the regional headquarters, and we know that the conflict has spread to almost every village. How should the committee proceed, given that the ramification is almost in all over the two regions?
Yes, he just talked a while ago here on the element of trust. You see, the committee, it depends who members who are going to constitute. For now, we know only the head of that committee. Who are
they are members, ministerial representatives?
Yes, but if the representation is limited only to the government side of it, no matter what time you give, it will just be a waste of time, because no matter, give them 6 months, give them 1 year, I don't see how this is going to come to fruition, because the element of trust is lacking.
Now, how do you think the committee can inspire trust? If I were to put that to you.
Yes, I think there have been multiple calls for dialogue. We know our religious leaders have been bent on holding dialogue. And if these religious leaders are given this benefit of doubt to see what they can do, and maybe the civil society, religious leaders should be part of this committee. If they are like a third party or a third party to this committee, they might. I think these guys might have some element of trust in the workings of the committee. Otherwise, if it is limited only to government, we know how everything in Cameroon today is politicized. The element of truth is no longer there. People hardly believe in some government officials because of a lot of lies telling. So this is creating a lot of doubt in whatever action government wants to take.
Okay, you wanted to chip in something?
I wanted to quickly say that you cannot dissociate the person from the role. Some of the ministerial departments that are part of this committee, some of those who are authorities there are known for having rejected the existence of a problem. And I don't think that from the outset, if you deny the existence of a problem, you can be a credible part of a solution. That's what I just quickly want to add.
Some of them turned along the way to realize that there was a problem.
Well, people would only take you for your first words, okay? And it's not everybody. There are people who continue to deny the existence, and this is where Professor Nsou's point of what are the root causes. If you don't know the cause of a problem, you cannot adequately address it.
Professor Nsou, you wanted to chip in something?
Yes, Joe. I said earlier, the commission or the committee is not a bad initiative. But what we should do now is we should be encouraging the government to go into inclusive dialogue.
How do you go into inclusive dialogue with the committee already in place?
Excuse me. The committee has a role to play. The role of the committee is well defined. It is disarmament, demobilization, and rehabilitation. He has broken that down clearly. So what we have to do is now, our role here is to see how can it be completed. How can it be completed? How can we empower this committee? And the only way we can do here is to encourage the government to go into inclusive dialogue. That's what we call peacemaking. When there is peacemaking, where all the parties will participate, they are going to back the committee, and the committee is going to function very well. But at the moment where we find ourselves, I don't want to preach negativity. That is the first thing I would like us to understand. But the point is clear. If you don't follow a certain procedure, then in the end, it might be a paper tiger.
Okay.
And quickly, Joe, and the point of who is a committee member is very critical.
That has already been done, so
because
maybe you can add, not subtract.
Yes, because what I'm saying is that,
like Elias did.
Yes, the person or the personalities that will constitute this committee can be part of a solution, in the sense that if they can inspire credibility, if they can inspire confidence in the people, it can help.
Okay. I would like us to move away from that topic because we had two topics on the program. We've been cut up by time. The hosting rights that were seized, should I say, from Cameroon last Friday. We're about 9 days or 10 days. With a situation like this, how does the government, who is the primary concern, handle the challenges?
Well, the government has already accepted its responsibility, and I think initially those who were making a lot of noise as to throw stones on CAF have been maybe asked by the higher authority to pipe down, and we see a lot of calmness in handling the issues. But I think that they always say that every disappointment is a blessing. I think that the disappointment we have had from CAF is a big blessing for Cameroon, because if you know, Cameroon is reputed for its football prowess, but these infrastructures over the years have been virtually absent, and within a year or two that we were proposed as given the proposed as the host, we see these infrastructures coming up. I think if you were to ask my personal opinion, I would say they push it even to 2025 so that we have more of these infrastructures. Because if we can only have good roads,
what would you do with the huge sums of money which you are borrowing to build those infrastructure?
Of course, we are push it to that. We are building for the future. We are building for the future generation. If we had this investment spirit in the last 20 years, I think Cameroon would have been an El Dorado. So I think we should have more of these challenges so that we learn how to build infrastructure in the future.
You know, one of the things which the Bretton Woods institutions did was to exercise some apprehension in the government's search for money to invest in infrastructure like that, saying that besides just one Nations Cup, it wasn't going to pay back that fast. Private individuals have also borrowed money in the face of this challenge. That's the withdrawal of the hosting rights. How should the private individuals handle this situation, given that they have the banks on their necks?
That's a difficult one, Joe. That's a very difficult one, because you don't. The hosting of the African Cup of Nations was more of a prestigious, and the economic benefits from it were a little questionable. But in terms of the image building of a country, it can help, and the economic can then come secondary. If your image, if you're seen as a country that is doing well, that is, it can attract all of those. But having said that, Joe, let me quickly go back to the government taking responsibility, if you permit. Joe, when you take responsibility, it doesn't only end at saying, I have accepted my fault.
We have taken note.
And so what? If we were in a country where people are morally upright, when you fail and you accept that you failed, you give way. You say, this thing is above me. Because if you simply accept the responsibility without drawing the consequences, you see what I'm talking about, you wouldn't have been sincere. You would not have been sincere. You
mean you take the blame and resign?
Exactly. You if you have failed, because some other people.
It might not have been you fully responsible for the failure,
but
which
Joe,
is.
If you play in a team, when the team wins, you take the credit, don't you?
You do.
Now, when the team fails, the team has failed.
Okay.
When you lose a match, you lose it as a team. When you win as a team. Yes, some of the actors may have been outstanding, but that doesn't permit you to say that no. I played very well. I was a defender, and I defended very well. The bottom line is, you lost.
Okay.
And you take responsibility, and the responsibility means that you take it to the end.
Okay. How should the private sector handle this situation, given that they've borrowed a lot of money? Unfortunately, our private or investment specialist has not been able to make it. He was supposed to come right all the way from Douala. Okay, Prof.
The very first point is the question you ask: how should the government react? This is something that the government is supposed to really find out. What went wrong? Who are the people responsible? We are just talking here. We don't know the country Cameroon when it comes to football. You know, when you hear the name Roger Milla symbolizes dance in football. He is a father. If you read his biography in the West, he is the icon who brought dance life into football. And if people are coming to the country of Roger Milla, of Etofis, of Foy Vivian, and all these people, you know, they have images in their head what they're coming to see. Do you understand? So I think, if you ask my own opinion, I'll tell you clearly that I'm really, really satisfied with the decision to withdraw the can from Cameroon and let us, sit up and do something better. They're coming to investors. What do you expect? They have borrowed enormous sum of money. They have invested. Now they'll be going to negotiate with their, creditors and all.
Shouldn't the government come in to help them negotiate?
Let's really hope that the
government itself has also taken.
Really,
maybe not from the same.
Let's hope that there will be some sort of a discussion.
Moratorium?
Yeah, some of that nature, because it's going to be heavy. The debt is going to be very, very heavy, and I don't think we would like to see Cameroonians suffering under something which they are not the cause. Okay. So it's the government.
Okay, let's get our online reactions. Good day, Elvis.
Yes, Joe. We had a number of reactions, but let's begin with this one concerning sports. That not hosting AFCON 2019 has some good lessons. There are 4 of them given by Tata Napoleon. You say 1, learn how to feed their fowl almost on a market day. 2, learn how to measure on the major and not to minor on the major. 3, that the statement impossible Nepal Cameroon has a limitation. And finally, I could not read that very well, that one man can do, God cannot, man has own limitation. Then. Now on the other topic concerning
disarmament,
Elvis American says, to change the story around in our country, leadership needs to become more philosophical, and whether it comes to politics, sports, or socioeconomy. Mary Kilashin says, I think we should examine ourselves and not others, and I think Cameroonians don't love themselves. Janet Fofang says, disarmament with no peace is a question she's asking, or with no peace deal. Tata Napoleon says, creation of a commission is not a problem, but the question is the mode of operation, and if poorly answered by Fayengo, it will open an obituary page, especially for the Northwest and Southwest. Cor Jackson says government has failed to listen to the people and knows the solution but refuses to apply it. Kemto Robert Mungwe says the problem is never solved by forming commissions, but the commission should come after inclusive dialogue. While Kofingwe Armstrong says there are never disarmament when the conflict is still on, and we pray God should touch the minds of our leaders. Kwankwe David said the moment we identified that we have a big problem from within, the better, and let's sit up and put things in order. And finally, Atem Kem Richard says decrees don't end wars. All wars are brought to an end by peaceful negotiation, and the prerequisite for disarmament has not yet been met.
Okay, those are reactions online. We're moving towards the end. Maybe a quick one. What lessons do we draw from the CAF decision, and what should we keep as a people for future action if we have to have situations like this?
No, to me, I would just say Lenin once said, trust is good, but control is better. I think when we have something of this sort from the word go, we should trust the people, but we make sure we put them under, some system of control, so not to leave it until the last days before we start hearing over issues. So from day one, we should start, and there should be a control mechanism in order to avoid such a disgrace that we're already facing internationally.
Terry?
Joe, I think we should do away with the old habit of not respecting appointments. There are a number of national events which, if they were to be organized by an international body, they would have been withdrawn from Cameroon. Remember the agro-pastoral show? Remember the celebration of our own reunification of independence? Remember, and I can go on and on. So let us do away with these bad habits. Let this one be the end. Because if we cannot organize our own events that we initiate, that we know when it is coming, we should not blame anybody. We should accept and take responsibility.
Elias?
And let heads roll.
Okay.
Yes, I think we need good planning in everything that we do. I mean, what is wrong with the annual planning with specific dates on what activities come and on what date? This will spare us this trouble of some of these international embarrassments.
Okay, thank you very much. Gentlemen, I wanted to say ladies, it's just a formality, gentlemen, for being on the program. We hope that the machines will be kinder with us next week, and that will start on time and give you what we prepared for next week, or what we would have prepared for next week. Until when we meet again, have a nice time on CRTV and stay with us if you can. Good day.